There are two reasons that people live paycheck to paycheck. It's either because of income or because of expenses. And in today's video, I'm going to explain how you can tell whether it's one or the other, as well as give you a step-by-step on how you can get out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle. My name is Alice, I'm a chartered professional accountant, and my channel is all about personal finance, investing, and business. Let's start with the first primary reason, which is income, meaning that you genuinely do not earn enough money to keep up with the cost of living. How you can gauge that income is the problem is with the cost of living, specifically the cost of food and shelter, which are two primary needs. So go onto Google and check the average rent price in your city. That is the most accurate way of gauging the cost of living. In Anaheim, California, for example, the average rent price is $2,379. If you divide this by 0.5, we get $47.68. If your income is less than $47.68 and you live in Anaheim, it means that you can expect to spend at least 50% of your income on rent or living costs. You might be wondering, what if I own? Well, technically, it doesn't really matter whether you rent or own, because when we're talking about living paycheck to paycheck, this is all about cash flow in, cash flow out. So whether you're spending 50% of your income on rent or you're spending 50% of your income on a mortgage, in both scenarios, it's going to be very hard not to live paycheck to paycheck. Another gauge is groceries, because we need food to survive. If food and groceries are costing you more than 15 to 20% of your household income and you're a working adult, could be a sign that you might not be making enough money to keep up with the cost of living. So let's say that you are spending around $250 a week for two people on grocery shopping. If we go 250 times 4, that's $1,000 a month divided by 0.2. So if your take-home income in your household for two people is less than $5,000 and you're spending more than $250 a week on groceries, that combined with all of your other necessities could be a sign that you're just not making enough money. Now, obviously, living and groceries are not our only necessities. You may also have debt payments, car payments, childcare if you have children, healthcare costs if you don't have health insurance. But in aggregate, if any of your necessities are exceeding 20 to 30% of your income, on top of living and food, mathematically speaking, you can see how that ends up eating at most of your income. And when it comes to identifying income overall as a problem, it is hard to come up with a single formula or an equation, but I'd say rather more factors to consider based on your own situation. But overall, if you're spending more than 70% of your household income on needs and necessities for survival, 70%, that's food, shelter, car, childcare, healthcare, it's going to be very hard not to live paycheck to paycheck by default because you simply do not make enough income relative to the cost of living in your city. The second situation is that you do make a reasonable salary, but your lifestyle and your expectations have really crept up to match what you make. In other words, you know how to make money, but you don't know where your money is going. And in this scenario, it requires a couple of things. I think the first is honesty with yourself regarding your own lifestyle habits and better money management in general. Well, why do I say honesty? Because, see, the thing is, nobody really thinks that they make enough money compared to the cost of living. And how you gauge lifestyle creep is through past behavior. So if what I said earlier doesn't apply to you, meaning that you're not spending more than 70% of your income on necessities, living, food, car, then you can ask yourself the following questions. Do you plan what you're going to buy as soon as you get paid? Have you lived on less before and been okay emotionally? In the past, when you experienced income increases or salary increases, what was your behavior around that increase? And the last question is, could you honestly live on less right now? Now, as a CPA, I know people who make $300,000 a year, very big salaries and prestigious jobs. And some of them have, upwards of $1.5 to $2 million mortgages, which basically means that they live paycheck to paycheck. Was it necessary to take on a mortgage that big for the lifestyle that you have? That's where it can be hard to really say and a little bit of judgment required. That's where the honesty bit comes in. No matter how much you make, you always have to know what your means are and how to live reasonably within your means and not stretch so much to the point that you live paycheck to paycheck no matter how much you make. Let's talk about what are some things that you can do. Let's start with the income problem first, since that's what I kicked off the video with. There are a lot of ways that you can make more money. Probably the best thing that anyone can do is learn some sort of high income skill and trade that skill for money. You can also start a side hustle, you can get a second job, or you can work for a salary increase. Whatever way that you choose, increasing your income usually requires behavioral change and an environment change. because a lot of the times it's people's environments and their thought patterns that keep them stuck at a certain income level without them even realizing. And I think in this scenario, focusing on getting a better job or finding some way to make more money, that's going to be far more meaningful and give you a far higher quality of life in the long term than cutting down on expenses and being frugal. A lot of people choose to accept their income as a life circumstance. Maybe it's the way that they were raised, but there is so little that you can do to improve your financial situation by saving and cutting down on expenses. There is so little that you can do. A penny saved is still a penny and a dollar saved is still a dollar. And so when it comes to making more money, usually you need a skill that the marketplace is willing to pay more for. And if you're in this situation, another thing I recommend is general financial literacy. So I highly recommend starting to read personal finance books. Personal finance books, business books, entrepreneurial books. These books will really change the way that you see yourself. They will change the way that you spend your time, how you see yourself, and really rewire your brain a little bit on, thinking of how to make more money or how to be better with money. A $10 book or a $15 book can absolutely change the way that you see the world. The ROI on a personal finance book or a business book is higher than any other investment of any kind that you can make. So start with books. The first goal here is to cut down on cash outflows and any discretionary spend until you've built up a better buffer for yourself. So starting by saving the smallest amount of money, like $50, $100 at a time whenever you can. That way, as your income grows, you have a system in place that will serve you well. If you've already cut down on all of your discretionary spend, then you might want to consider an environment change like moving, getting a roommate, and just understand that you're going to have to make some changes in order for this to work. It's going to be very hard for a long time until it's not. But if you're serious about this, you know that this is something that you have to do, and otherwise nothing is going to change. Paying yourself first is such a huge change that you have to make in order to break the paycheck to paycheck mentality, and it requires a shift in your mindset. If you treat saving money like a bill that's within your budget and you pay yourself like you're paying your landlord, that change in mindset can allow you to focus on saving first rather than consuming. Now, if you're interested in learning how to manage and budget all of your income and expenses, I encourage you to check out my video up top here. It's much more detailed, but having a budget and a financial plan for yourself is definitely a part of this picture. The second goal that you want to work towards is to pay off your debts. If you are in debt, you want to prioritize paying off your debts because it's very hard to budget for the future if you are still paying off yesterday's expenditures. So I encourage you to not buy things on credit in general during this phase when you're trying to build a buffer for yourself. Because if you can't afford to buy something outright, then you should probably consider not buying it altogether. And if you are serious about building a buffer, you may also want to stop using your credit card for new purchases in the time being while you are in the process of paying off your debts. So goal 2, don't buy on credit, focus paying off your debts. Now, the third goal is to come up with a budget for yourself. Good money management starts with knowing where your money is going, which means that setting a budget, tracking your spending, or just in general, setting some rules for yourself around how you manage your money. There is a very famous personal finance budgeting ratio called the 50-30-20 rule. They recommend 50% of your income go to needs, 30% go to wants, and 20% go to savings. I think this is a really good starting point, or just a good guideline for you to get started with when you are trying to manage your expenses. And I recommend doing this in something like Google Sheets, or you can even use an app like mint.com. I'm not associated or affiliated with them, but I do know that it's one of those apps where you can hook up all of your bank accounts and hook up all of your credit cards, and it will manually categorize all of your income and expenses for you, and that way you can track your spend. And as a part of looking at your expenses, I highly recommend looking at your actual bank account and your actual expenses. I don't mean like, sitting there thinking, oh, I spend approximately $10 on lunch a day, multiplied by 5 days. No, I actually mean take out your bank statements, your credit card statements, your receipts, your bills, and just add up how much you actually spent on various things, then categorize those things by necessities and non-necessities. Take a look at your spend every month, compare it to previous months, and find low-hanging fruit that you can trim down on. I think for many people, the lowest hanging fruit that you can cut down on is eating out and alcohol. Those are Honestly, the two expenses where if you're not really monitoring can easily add up to hundreds, if not up to $1,000 a month. And the benefit with that is that you also end up eating healthier. You know, eating a $15 lunch every day might not seem a lot, but when you look at your bank statement and you realize that you spent $300 on lunches, $500 on dinners, you'll realize that that's kind of a kick in the butt. We tend to underestimate how much we actually spend. I also want you to set some short-term goals and some long-term goals for yourself. Having some short-term goals and some long-term financial goals to work for can really help you change your day-to-day decision-making. The overall goal when it comes to getting out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle is to make more money and act like you never got a raise and to stop comparing yourself to other people. Breaking paycheck to paycheck is a hard cycle to break, especially if it's been a habit that you've adopted for a long time or you come from a family with similar habits. If you guys like this video today, you're gonna like another video of mine, which is how to manage your income and your expenses, where I go through step by step all of the things that you should consider when it comes to money management. So make sure you check out that video up top. I think you're gonna really like it. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought about this video, whether you found it helpful. Let me know where you are in your financial journey, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Until next time.